Hello, patrons. It's Monday, October 31st, Halloween, and this is your Cup of Jones. Hey, everyone. Happy Halloween. Thank you for joining me for another Cup of Jones. Thank you for the comments for the last episode of Cup of Jones about camping. Thank you for the questions from that episode and also the questions from the previous episode. Lots of questions to get through today. Longer episode of Cup of Jones. We'll see how long it ends up being. But first of all, I want to say thank you to Mr. Cody Koning for my gigantic Batman mug. Now I have two Batman mugs, thanks to Cup of Jones, thanks to Easy Allies. But this is a very sizable mug. You can put a lot of liquid in there. So got lots of water because we got to read a lot of questions. And also want to say, of course, again, happy Halloween. Of course, I'm dressed up as Indiana Jones. I do not have the leather jacket. I do have a whip. I'm not wearing it. And I do not. A lot of people will rock the pouch, the Temple of Doom, Shankar Stone's pouch. This is an official hat. From Disneyland. They updated it, actually. This is a much more felt, squishy, appropriate hat, I think. And the one I had before was kind of like cardboard. It was great. It served its purpose. It was actually my third hat. Fun stories about how I lost all of the other hats. But this is definitely a costume that I want to build up over the years. So I will see if I can find a leather jacket. I got the pants, got the shoes. You can call me Indiana Jones. You can call me Dr. Jones. You can call me Henry Jones Jr., or you can call me Brandon Jones, but it is a Cup of Jones. We have lots of questions. Let's get into it. All right, here we go. I'm going off my laptop for this one. First of all, big thanks to Beaten Down Brian for responding to a lot of comments about a lot of general EZA questions that Brian has a little bit of insight because Brian is always watching. So thank you very much for getting in there, and really to everybody for answering questions when it takes me a couple weeks maybe to get back to everybody. I love this from Henra. I'm going to TGS. How do I meet up with Ben? And then immediately after, he's the first person I saw when I got off the plane. So apologies that I wasn't there really quick with an answer to that question, but apparently the fates meant that the two of you would bump into each other at the airport. I hope both of you had fun in Japan. Ben shot a series called Tales from the East. That part 1 has already gone up, so if you want to check out Tales from the East, you can, and hopefully we'll get more of that soon. But that's hilarious. Froggy with Fries has an excellent suggestion. Mega 64 Game Days, consider it. I have considered it before, Froggy. I've been there twice by accident. I knew about Game Days, but I just happened to go to Disneyland on that day. I believe this year, November 6th, is when they're all getting together. I will be there. Vittorio likes retros. Have you thought about making some mini retrospectives for older games without sequels? I'm not always a fan of doing mini versions of things. A lot of people said do mini reviews for smaller games or older games. I think one of the things, it's not like a absolutely wouldn't do rule, but I do like the difference between the games. I do like talking about at least more than one game because you can compare it. I do like saying the word franchise and series, and having that kind of be the center of it. But I'm curious if you have any particular ones in mind that you would want to see, because that seems like a loaded question. Seems like you got one or two maybe that you would like to see. So curious what your picks would be. Adam has a good one. Would you like to see a new entry in any of Rockstar's secondary game series? Definitely Bully. I'm excited we're getting Red Dead Redemption 2. I would be almost as excited if we were getting a new Bully sequel. I love Bully. I've streamed Bully before. I reviewed Bully. I think I gave Bully an 8 or an 8.5. I think Bully's really stood the test of time and stands as one of the things that I think Rockstar as a whole should be really, really proud of. It's a game that has a ton of personality, a really great, believable world. One of my favorite things about Bully is that every character in that world has a name and actually has a specific personality. So when you see someone, it's not just like generic NPC person. There might be a couple in the residential areas, but a lot of the people you bump into you can recognize just from seeing them. And so taking that concept and moving it further, maybe going not necessarily in a private school for younger kids, but maybe a collegiate era, getting into frat parties and stuff like that. I think Rockstar can handle that really well. I think they do a lot of raunchy things, but I think they do it in a very sophisticated way. That's what I love about that series and that company. So Bully, if you haven't, check it out. HD version, so which looks a little rough around the edges, but is easily accessible. I think last gen, I don't know if they have that for new gen, but if they do, go get it. Ahmad, I'm going to break your heart. BlizzCon, what are your plans for that? We were waiting around. We didn't get tickets. I've never been to BlizzCon. I didn't have a desire to go to BlizzCon. There's several amongst us, Brad, Bren, possibly even Ian, definitely Huber, that would want to go to BlizzCon. And we were waiting to get tickets, and then we they didn't get tickets for us. We applied as media and got rejected, and so we didn't get tickets, which we should have beforehand, but it wasn't necessarily in the budget. And every new event that we go to as Easy Allies, we test out how we should cover it, and we make mistakes almost every time. But that's because it's a completely new venture, and so we got to figure out, Hi Blizzard, we're easy out. Oh, okay, we'll get tickets next year. There'll be no question. So we're gonna miss out on BlizzCon, and it sucks. It sucks not to send anybody, but we've missed out on some things this year that we're already planning on not missing out on next year. So every year will be different, and have a good time for us. Let us know how it is. Mikhail is talking top 100. You have to tell us what your number one game of all time was on that list. I think you're referring to, maybe I had brought up the top 100 games of all time that we were going to do at Game Trailers. Ocarina of Time is the greatest video game that's ever been made. I mean, if that wasn't clear, if I haven't made that clear before, then I'll make it clear now. Maybe I'll do an entire Cup of Jones, explaining why. I wrote a script for number one as an example. Boy, I don't know. No, I think I wrote a script about GoldenEye, actually, because I think GoldenEye, of course, 007 wound up on that list somewhere. Also a Nintendo 64 game. Ocarina of Time is the best game ever made. It seems generic in a lot of ways because you're like, oh yeah, but we made games that are better than that. It's like, yeah, take any of those teams that made those games that you claim to be better than Ocarina of Time, send them back in time to the year that game came out, or rather like the 3 or 4 years before that when that game was in development, and see what they could do then. Like, see, given the restrictions of having no team ever that had done really anything outside of like Tomb Raider in 3D, go for it. like try to control a character in 3D, jump and latch and puzzle and do all of those fancy things that you do in Ocarina of Time, and see what you can do. And that's why Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time are such earth-shattering accomplishments, because so many other people just completely fumbled the ball when they were trying to update these. It took them years, decades even, to finally click and finally understand what this classic franchise could be in 3 dimensions. And Zelda knocked it out of the park. First game, right out of the gate. It was like, this is it. This is going to be one of the leading franchises in 3D. And so it's fun to see where they are now with Breath of the Wild. That's why I didn't bring it up, because it takes me 5 minutes to at least just casually mention Ocarina of Time. Jason asks, are you a fan of other voice actors, for instance, audiobooks and video game talent? If so, who are some of your favorites? I have so many favorites. The cast of Futurama, I think, probably has made me laugh more than any voice actor in any medium. But a special shout out, if I haven't by name specifically on anything we've done with Easy Allies, to a man named Roy Dotrice, who does all of the Game of Thrones books. I think currently holds the Guinness Book of World Records for most characters ever voiced, different characters ever voiced for audiobooks. Correct me if I'm wrong. It might just be for one series. It might just be for one book. But I'll take his voice over some of the actors. As much as I love Peter Dinklage, his Tyrion is just the way his Tyrion sounds, the voice, because Dinklage, he suffers with the accent a little bit. As much as I love him. I love that show. But Roy Dotrice absolutely kills that series. If you've ever been curious to read the books, get all of the audiobooks for Game of Thrones. He didn't do book 6, and then they retconned it later. And actually, no, we haven't gotten book 6 yet. Book 4. He didn't do book 4, and then they retconned that and brought him in. Feast for Crows, I think, is book 4. Corrections music. But Roy Dotrice, hats off. I hope one day book 6 gets to come out eventually and you get to do that. But I'm not crossing my fingers. Yuri wants to know, what is the favorite games-related piece of merchandise you own? It is this. Mickey Mouse as the Sorcerer's Apprentice, aka Sorcerer Mickey, for Disney Infinity, a 1.0 figure. This was available in the January. This is the holdout. Every season of Disney Infinity, they had one that you didn't get for a while, and that was this. And I got this. A lot of people got this one. It's an exclusive. You can see his hat is silver. The actual store, if you run out and get him right now, that one, the stars and the moon on his hat are blue, like the rest of his hat. And I imagine that as like a box in a spreadsheet that you're just like, should we spend money on it being silver, or can we make just as much if it's not silver? Fun detail, but maybe not required, considering it's a whole different coat of paint. But this specifically was handed to me by Mr. John Vignacchi within Club 33, in a room conceptualized but never actually sat in or dined in by Mr. Walt Disney. And so this object completely, takes my breath away, because I love video games, I love Disney, and this is the official Disney video game, representation of this iconic character. And so, you know, Walt never got to play video games. Walt never got to sit in the room where this was given to me. Walt didn't get to experience a lot of cool stuff that's going on with Disney right now. And so I definitely covet this. If this building was on fire, I would grab Sophie in this, and I would run for safety. Usman has a technical concern. Is there any reason why Cup of Jones tends to come out choppy laggy, whereas other EZA videos do not? Surely there is, but I don't know what that could be. The only thing I think is different is I do not put that as open because I have to restrict Cup of Jones to just the people watching it on Patreon. And so maybe because it's being blocked that way, I don't know. I'll look into that. Richard wants more reviews. I was wondering about the amount of game reviews. I can't help but compare the frequency of them to some other YouTube channels. A legitimate point, Richard. Reviews are something that we used to do. You know, we have a review program, but it's really based upon what people are willing to work on. And a lot of us are willing to review games. We're also willing to produce shows, be a part of shows that other people are producing, and possibly do other projects outside of Easy Allies, because some of us do not support ourselves. Some of us do not earn what we would consider a living from what we make on Easy Allies. So I will, I admit, and I have to address that concern because it is also a concern of mine that I want to do more reviews. It's a goal of mine for 2017. It's a goal of mine for Easy Allies as a whole. I really like doing reviews, specifically video reviews, specifically reviews of games. I love the format. I love the concept of taking that experience of playing a game, representing it in video game format, and speaking through a voice of one person that played a game. And I want to do as many of that as possible. I don't like the idea of farming it out, but at the same time, I do want to maybe bring in other editors, bring in other writers, bring in other people that we think could represent the editorial voice of Easy Allies, and get more reviews out there. So all I can say to the frequency of them is that, like I said, it's, you know, we don't have a hardcore schedule for when we do reviews. If we hand a review to someone, the commitment is that they are going to review that game. But unless it's something that we know has a hard deadline that we can get ahead of, that if we're lucky enough to go to a review event or get an advanced copy of the game, then there's no question. It'll be all hands on deck, to get that done. A la Titanfall was a great example. Our Titanfall review went up day and date. So we want of the embargo in, I think, 2 or 3 days before it launched. And we always want that every time. So whenever you see a review that's late, it's not because we're like, whatever. Like, we're bummed that's late. We don't want that to be late. But an example would be Dragon Quest Builders. I'm playing that game right now. I haven't even finished it yet because I'm working on other things. But I'm really passionate about Dragon Quest Builders, and I not only am eager to score the game, I'm eager to get my opinions down and express those opinions to my audience, but to archive those opinions as one of our reviews. So even if something's really late, I think it's still worth doing so that we can put that in the archive of our reviews and have that be there forever. We have an archive we left behind at Game Trailers. We're creating a new archive now. I'm really proud of the reviews that we've done so far, and so I'm excited to do as many more as possible. We need more reviews. I agree with you, Richard. End of story. Dylan wants us to make more money. Have you guys considered doing a second Patreon for non-gaming content? Yeah, right at the beginning of doing the Patreon, has never come up since because it's something that we don't have the time for and we don't really want to do. All of us have that thing, mine is like theme parks and hiking and fitness, and Huber's is like wrestling, and Ian is really heavy in the independent game scene and is a fantastic musician, and so there's all sorts of other Patreons that all of us could do, but just one thing at a time. I really want to get the feeling that the Patreon is not just a successful venture that we're doing that's all supporting us for the moment, but is an actual business that is set up and is secure and will be around for a long time. And then we can maybe consider doing other things. But that's not something that's come up and really sustained a heavy conversation here at Easy Allies yet. Caesar loves the nerd. If the opportunity came, is there something you'd like to do with James Rolfe, aka the angry video game nerd? I remember him when he was the angry NES nerd, right? The angry NES nerd, I think. And he would just play NES games. He would just talk about crappy NES games. I love the nerd. I haven't watched the nerd in forever because I just gorged on the nerd back in the day. The nerd, I think, more than anyone that we had back at Game Trailers that we licensed out to, as much as I love Hey I Switched for Playing and Mega 64 and Screw Attack, the nerd, I think I was the most starstruck about having the nerd. I was like, the nerd wants to put videos on our website? Get out of here. I didn't feel like we deserved those. The nerd is a very special person. I don't know what I would do with the nerd, because it's a question of, who would I be doing that with? Would I be doing that with James or doing that with the nerd? And I don't know how much stuff James does now. But I once went bowling with James, and I would love to maybe just play an old retro game. That'd be really great. Goonies 2. There's my official answer. I don't know why Goonies 2 just jumped into my mind. I've been thinking a lot about that lately. I really want to stream Goonies 2. So hopefully James Rolfe could track down a copy of Goonies 2, and we could do it. David's talking Pokemon. I know you're on Media Blackout along with Kyle going into Pokemon Sun and Moon, but I was just curious if you were doing this strictly because of Kyle, or if you would have been going in blind even if he wasn't. David, to be honest, I haven't really put a ton of energy into being on Media Blackout for Pokemon Sun and Moon. I know some stuff. I know the starter Pokemon. That owl sounds like the coolest thing ever, and so I'm going to pick that. Sorry if saying the word owl was a spoiler, but it's nice to know what my starter one would be going in. Because I don't know how much information they give you about starter Pokemon going. This is only my second Pokemon game, so we will see. But really, we've talked about this before. One of the things that's really changed from game trailers going into Easy Allies is that I don't watch trailers that much anymore. You know, full confession here. I don't. For a lot of movies and stuff like that. I think Logan was really like one of the last trailers that I saw the day it came out. That was not something that somebody had to remind me of after the fact. So I don't really hunt for that stuff. It doesn't really get in the way of me consuming other media. I usually just like make videos and watch a lot of Netflix and play a lot of games. 3 of 5 is a big jerk. Not to be a big poophead negative jerk, but I hate that you guys are always comparing yourselves to other content creators. Poophead negative jerk. Look what you did, you little poophead negative jerk. You big poophead negative jerk. That'll go away. We do that because we're so new, and it's so interesting seeing a lot of our colleagues, a lot of people that we know. Daniel Dwyer just started a Patreon. A good buddy of ours, John Finger, who does a lot of really cool tech with CG and mocap and effects and fun camera work. He just started a Patreon, and so it's interesting to see, you know, what people are willing to spend money on and what people expect to get out of these different Patreons at different levels. And so we're comparing ourselves to them, not in like, oh, we should be them. We should never be them. We should always be us. But you don't really know who you are unless you kind of see what else is capable what else you can do in the medium. And so I think that's where a lot of that desire comes from. So I don't want to be kind of funny. I want their numbers. I want their video screen. But I don't want to be kind of funny. Because you go on that show, and it's wonderful to feel included into a different community, but it's a different community, and I love that. I don't want us all to have the same communities. I want us all to be in different camps, and so not like cliques. You know, I want all of them to still be inclusive. But long story short, again, that'll go away because our identity will start to become stronger. We'll have so much more experience at meet and greets, December 2nd at the Avalon Ballroom. And we'll get to know more of you, and we'll get closer and closer, and we'll start to gain more of our identity and talk less about what other people are doing, or necessarily like compare ourselves to them. So, but thanks for bringing that up. Utori likes the music playing right now. What is the name of the music you play in the video when you answer questions? It is, I don't recall the name of it off the top of my head, but it is from a music service called Pond5. So if you go to pond5.com, you type in jazz, like jazz piano, it'll come up with that. I wanted something. It was tricky to pick music. I wanted something that was like casual, but wasn't like, like it wasn't like, yeah, everything I'm saying is right. Woo! It was just like, let's just kind of sort this out. We're going through the mail. You know what I mean? We got a bunch of papers on my desk. And so, and something that if I put it at a low enough volume, you could listen to for hours. If you were stuck in an elevator, you didn't want to claw your face off. So, nobody's really ever brought up the music before. You were the first one, Otori. So thank you for at least calling it into question. Colin's calling me out. Do you watch every main show and stream from the Allies? No, I don't. I'm sorry. I definitely have guilt over episodes of stuff that I have missed. I certainly don't watch every single episode. The biggest thing that I lament missing out on is Tabletop Adventures and Tabletop Escapades. I've watched very few episodes of those. Because those are deep and distracting, because I'm really invested in role-playing, I'm really invested in those characters, and I'm really invested in those people, like I know those people, and so I couldn't just put that on in the background and do work. I would be completely consumed by it. And so a lot of times jokes are thrown around about Tabletop Escapades, and I'm like, well, oh yeah, Mike Hook is checking up on my free time. Since starting Easy Allies, have you had a few solid days off? And if you did, what did you do with them? I'm sure I have. I don't recall specifically. But the thing is, I've gotten hours off at times of the day now at Easy Allies that I've never had before. So there were a lot of things before, a lot of performances, stuff like that. You know, it's best to get places at like 6 or 7 p.m. And I, you know, if I was lucky, I got out of the building at 7:45 p.m. every day at Game Trailers, and now I can choose to get it done at, you know, later at night, you know, because I cut from home, or I can get it done earlier, or, you know, the allies will understand if something's like a day or two late. And so because of some of the luxuries that I have now at Easy Allies, I've been able to you know, do my schedule differently. And so even though I don't get like a full day, I'll still get parts of the day that I never have before. Even just seeing like the sunset at my house is worth a full day off. James has a Disneyland question. Thank you, James. What's your favorite food and attraction at Halloween-themed Disneyland? The Haunted Mansion is my favorite ride, so the Haunted Mansion is my favorite themed thing. They added Sally this year, which looks awesome. And they changed the gingerbread castle on the table in the big ghost ballroom every year. And so it's always fun going and seeing what the theme is for the new gingerbread castle that they're going to build. I don't necessarily have a favorite food. A lot of the food that I consume usually at Disneyland is fairly repetitive. I usually get the same thing over and over. And so I don't really have... Amanda would be so much better to answer that question. So sorry, Amanda's not here. Sold Out of Life is wondering if I ever find a festival I'm collaborating with, a retro gaming one, a Comic-Con type one, an Otaku type one, and one that is more YouTube guest oriented, that has to do with gaming or has a gaming aspect to it, that wants to have an interesting guest attend. Think you or someone at EZA may be interested to come? Possibly. We've had to say no to a lot of those things this year, even gaming events from publishers that have reached out to us and said, do you want to come and cover this game? Especially now near the end of the year when we're doing lots of reviews and other projects. And it's like, I can't give up the weekend. The weekend is when I do the thing. The weekend is when I actually have time to finish Dragon Quest Builders, to shoot Cup of Jones, to work on certain things. So yeah, I don't know when it's going to open up where we can officially say hi to, say hi to the people at the events, say yes to these things, and commit to something like this. But we'll never say no to requests. I mean, there's no issue in requesting stuff like that. You can reach out to me at brandon@easyallies.com anytime you want, and let me know about these things. I've thrown out my email a lot, and I thought, oh man, I'm just going to get a flood of email. Not really. I just get a lot of little civil hellos every now and then. So always feel free to reach out to me and let me know what's up. And if there's an event, and understand that 90% of the time we're not going to be able to go because we just take the commitment to our patrons extremely seriously. And so we don't branch out and do weird stuff a lot. Not weird stuff, but extra stuff, because we're really committed to producing the stuff that we said we were going to do. So in 2017, it's a goal to get out there, to do more different kinds of events that we haven't been to before, and to do more charity work than we did this year, because that's another great opportunity to meet up with people. So thank you, Soldat. Keep the suggestions coming. Jeffrey might be annoyed. Are you annoyed by the patrons that drop their pledge to EZA at the end of each month? No, you don't. You don't know. You're on a bus with somebody. You really. I try, because I love characters so much, because I love games like Telltale and Uncharted, and really seeing expression like people's faces. And so you see somebody, and even in person, you know, and you think like, I know that person, I know their life, I know everything that they've been through, and today you have no idea. And so there's all sorts of reasons why people could be bailing. So what I found actually on Patreon, that initially I was like, uh-oh, and it just makes me feel a warm and fuzzy inside, actually, the more I think about it. Maybe I'm being naive, but it's that a lot of people are not necessarily bailing on their pledge altogether, but are dropping their pledge, you know. So we're going from like a $50, a $20 a month to just $1, $5, you know. I want to stay as an official paid ally on Patreon. I want to get a Cup of Jones and other stuff, but like I don't need to donate at that level all the time. And I love that, because it means that you still want to hang around. You still want to get the updates on Patreon. You still want to be involved. You still want to support us in some way. And so seeing that actual patron number jump up and keep jumping up feels really good, regardless of how much we make. So it doesn't matter how much you give us. I love you. So thank you for that. I love all those people, even if they drop their pledge. So they do not annoy me at all, Jeffrey. Beta912 is a question I am ready for. If you love Halloween, I am assuming you have been to a lot of haunted houses. What's the best location you've been to and the best scare you have had? I will tell you. There is a company called Delusion They have a lot of different names. Delusion, I think, is the official name of the company. They put on a production that is also referred to as the Haunted Play. It is in Los Angeles. If you Google Delusion Haunted Play, you will find them. His Crimson Queen, I believe, is their production this year for the month of October and November. They actually sold out before I was able to get tickets this year because my email, Brandon at Game Trailers, was on their mailing list, and I did not get their, hey, we have tickets now thing, and realized way too late, and checked in, it was totally sold out. They actually just had an extension, and that's already sold out, but I slipped in right at the last minute and grabbed a ticket for the end of November. Delusion is incredible because Delusion takes over the entire house, and Delusion actually picks a house. And so, excuse me, so even though you have fabricated parts of the house, even though you have things that's like, oh, clearly they put up this wall or they added this thing in the corner there. The foundation of it is a house. And that affects the entire thing. It affects after you leave. It especially affects before you go in. And you have to wait around for a little bit because you have to wait for your time. So you show up and you maybe like drink some wine and read some stories about all the stuff you're going in and talk to some other people. Maybe they've gone through it. Maybe they're going to, clue you in on some stuff that you don't want to miss. And then with 9 other people, I believe, maybe 10 to a dozen people, you go through this thing, and it's severe. I've been grabbed and thrown around. People have gotten like right in my face. The biggest scare I ever got from it was the first year I ever did it. And these are like actors that are doing this. Actors meaning like professional stunt actors that are doing crazy, crazy stunts, and really good in-your-face theater actors in Los Angeles that of course would love a job. And this is like a steady job for 2 months. So they get really, really into it. And it's cool to see returning actors every year, to see someone pop up and be like, I remember you were the crazy babysitter from last year. No idea what his Crimson Queen is about, but I'm excited about that. The best scare. There was a part where we were in a bedroom and something scary happened, and we were basically like shoved into a hallway, and everyone in the room kind of was a little scared to leave, I think. I don't think they got the cue that like, oh, we should leave, or maybe they just wanted to wait around and see what the monsters that were chasing us looked like. I was like, I'm out of there, I'm good. And so I took off and I ran through this hallway way ahead of the group. And so I reach a part where there's a staircase that's going straight down, and I look back to the group and I'm like, should I keep going down the staircase? And this is again what I mean about stunt performers that were just like, especially the first time I saw it, a little bit better than what I was expecting. This woman in a white nightgown stepped out from right where I was on the same landing, but she dropped way down about a floor to the bottom of the staircase and then jumped back up, basically like on a pulley system, like she just like kind of bungee cord down. And that's like one of the best roots of really good horror, is a physical deformation that you're not expecting. Something to jump at you from a distance that you don't think it can, or make a noise you're not expecting. And that I was not expecting that lady to go jumping out of that. I mean, I thought she was committing suicide. This lady just all of a sudden like appears in front of me, and I thought she was just going to be. You've seen that before in a haunted house. Ladies up on the second floor, like and like yelling at you from up there, and you're like, haha, you can't get me. You're up on the second floor. And then here she comes. She comes jumping off at the spot where I was just about to run down the staircase toward, and my brain didn't know how to process that for a half a second, and it scared my pants off. And then I put my pants back on and I went out and bumped into Neil Patrick Harris, who produces it. True story. He was like right at the other end of that door. I was like, oh, what's up, NPH? Brolio's talking SoCal. As a fellow Southern California ally, I want to know, what is your favorite spot in LA to grab some grub? There's so many places, in and out, to be honest. If I really want to treat myself, if I'm like, it's my birthday today, but not really, I'll go to In-N-Out and I'll get a double, no onions. That's just, because you're talking Southern California, like you can get that other places in Southern California, but certainly not on the East Coast. And Frito Misto is a really good Italian place that has ravioli that's just like the best thing ever. Disneyland, quite frankly, there's two or three restaurants at Disneyland that are really good, that I like to go to. There's a place called Melisse that I think is probably one of the best restaurants that I've ever gone to, and that's also in Los Angeles. As far as like actually, like setting the bar, being like, yeah, that's probably the best plate of food I've ever had in Los Angeles. I was at a place called Melisse, and yeah, that's just it off the top of my head. Honestly, some of like the smaller mom and pop like Hamburger Habit, and even like chain joints that are just in California are pretty darn good. So, what are yours? Again, a lot of times when you guys and gals ask me specific questions, let me know, especially if it's Southern California. I want to know good places to eat. Tito's Tacos, let me know. Keon's feeling the memories. What was your first game and console, and what games are you most nostalgic for? First game I ever played on a home console, I might have played an arcade game. I might have played Pac-Man, probably Pac-Man in the arcades. I guess. My first recollection of a game that I ever played was for the Atari 2600, and it was the jungle game, Pitfall. I always forget Pitfall. And that was the first home console game I owned, was that. And I think Pac-Man came with it, so I think Pac-Man for the Atari 2600 was the first home console game that I owned. The NES was the first system that I bought with my own money, saving up with my brother, and Mike Tyson's Punch-Out was like the big NES game that I played first. And I played some games in the Apple IIe, but home console, it was, 2600 in the NES. Keon's got one more. Which of the allies have you known for the longest? Interesting question. One that I don't think about that often. Might be a tie between Michael Damiani and Daniel Bloodworth, but I think it's Michael Damiani. And I hadn't really thought about that before, and that's fascinating. So yeah, Michael Damiani wins by nose. Whammy Time 91 is reaching across the aisle. What's one influence you would want Western games to take from Japanese games, and vice versa? I think I would want, I'd want them both to loosen up a little bit. Both sides, in different ways. I would want Japanese games to loosen up a little bit. I think, just in the actual construction of the game. Like, Japanese games always feel a little bit more rigid to me. Comparing some stealth experience to something like a Sam Fisher to a Solid Snake. Solid's very rigid. His actions are very rigid, which works for like a military game. Everything you do needs to be extremely precise. Whereas something like an Uncharted or the GTA series now are like a little more loosey-goosey, and I just like that. It feels more natural. Same time, story-wise, I would like to see the U.S. loosen up a little bit more, kind of move away from the Nathan Drake, Marcus Phoenix, vibe and get some more bizarre, even like Horizon Zero Dawn. This is the very like different, flavored protagonist. And so I like to see them do that more, because the characters in Japanese games are always so darn interesting. Like all of them, like characters in like something like a Persona or a Bayonetta. Even people that pop up for 5 seconds, you never forget, because you're like, remember that guy with the eyes and the crazy hat with the 2 heads? So I like to see the US try more of that. Wonus loves the Sophie. When you inevitably will get a studio, will Sophie be there? Sophie's not going to live there, but he's over on the couch right there. But I'll bring her by group streams for sure. Tuesday nights, you will definitely see Sophie one day a week. And when we get a studio, I will also be streaming from home. The couch will go there, but I will still be hanging out here, and I will still be working from home. So we will definitely, I will definitely be playing video games from home with Sophie and getting her on camera. So Sophie ain't going nowhere. Captain Fancy Pants is getting me in the spooky mood. Since Halloween is almost here, what are your favorite scary games? Clock Tower is a classic. I like Silent Hill 1 more than Silent Hill 2. I played the Resident Evil series way more than I played Silent Hill. I worked on that retrospective, so I've played every single Resident Evil game ever, except for Dead Aim, which was the second Gun Survivor game. I didn't play that. I had a friend play that for the retro, and I'm glad I did. Scary games, though. I remember D on like the 3DO or the PS1 or something way back in the day. That was a fun, spooky game. Alone in the Dark, obviously, is a classic. System Shock 2. I think Bioshock is a scary game. I remember Bioshock gave me some pretty good chills back in the day. I remember scaring the hell out of Ryan Stevens when he was up late at GT playing Bioshock one time. I came in and spooked him when he was alone. Back in HD. When the 360 first launched, we were doing reviews in HD. We had to do them on tape. That's why he was in that room, because he was recording that on tape. Sorry, random aside. Scary games. I'm trying to think of at least one more. Outlast is pretty darn scary. Eternal Darkness. Definitely super spooky game. Luigi's Mansion even gave me some chills. We were playing the other night. So yeah, thank you. Again, I could go on and on and on. I love Halloween. I love scary games. I'm sad it's going to be over soon. Steven's wondering if you guys at GT ever went or plan to go to Gamescom, and if it's something you'd like to do as Easy Allies. We definitely did go to Gamescom a couple years, maybe just 1 year. I know Daniel Bloodworth has been. Daniel Bloodworth can tell you stuff about Gamescom because he has been at least once. We sent Ben to Tokyo this year to go to the Tokyo Game Show and just be in Tokyo. And that might not be something we do next year. Next year we might go to Gamescom. And so every year it's going to change what we decide to cover, what we're able to do with the funds that we have. But it's definitely something we want to do. We definitely missed going to Gamescom this year. So hopefully it's just as big next year, and hopefully we can go. Desmond asks, is there a video game moment that you always wish you could share with non-gamers, but can't because they just don't play games? I think one of the biggest stories that I just can see people's eyes glazing over whenever I try to tell them that aren't gamers, that I'm like, let me do my best to try to paint the picture of how epic this was, so you can understand. Is the Saga of Arthas? Is like there's this RTS game where there's this character at the end of it who I very much connected with, who wanted to save his kingdom, and to do it, gave himself over to an item of coldness and despair and revenge, and became, this completely awful person. And I felt really bad, but then like 10 years went by, and over time I kind of started to hate him. Actually, I kind of started to be like, Arthas, why did you do that? Like, that was actually a very selfish thing to do, and I didn't feel so bad for him. And then he was just up there on this throne like for so long, and then this other game came out that, like, instead of doing the RTS, you could like go into the game, and it was this amazing, and it was like, other people made MMOs, but oh my god, this MMO is incredible. And then I can go to this place, and not only can I go back and reunite with this character again, but I can do it with my friends. I'm going to get together with 9 of my best friends, and we're going to climb to the top of this ice cube tower and kick his ass. And I actually ended up beating him the second day of E3 at work, on my work PC, late at night during the week of E3. We finally killed Arthas. And that was it was like a decade. It was a decade of my life that story spanned. And so a lot of times when like there's a game and then it has a sequel later where they're like, uh-oh, that bad guy's back, I'm like, it's tough to beat a decade as far as how really feeling that story in real time, and really having that, finally laying that character to rest, and having the creators of that character be like, he's dead, he's gone. Like, his story is finished. You were there for the end of it. It's like Khan coming back in the second Star Trek movie. And if you haven't played games, you don't care. It's really hard to, because it wasn't a show. It was not like, oh, I made it through 5 seasons of that show. I killed him. I did it. I shot a lot of I shot a lot of arrows with my bow at his face, and killed him myself. It wasn't just a movie or a show that I saw. So, yeah, Warcraft's fun. Alex wants to know, is there any reason why some of the allies don't want to be full-time? Is it down to the budget? Not necessarily a budget question. We could work out a dedicated full-time payment for all the allies if we had to. One of the things you have to remember about being full-time that I think I might have said in a different language here on Cup of Jones before is that being full-time isn't necessarily representative of how much work you do. Full-time is representative of how much work you've committed to do. So if you are full-time, I'm going to give you a big list of stuff you got to do. And you have to do those things, and I will remind you of them. And if you don't do them, I will get on you for not having done them. Whereas if you're not full-time, it's no big deal. If you're Brad and the internet goes bad, if you're Huber and you got family from out of town and you got to take out, fine, But if, you're Ben and the community comments isn't done, like, I can get on you, or you're, I'm not speaking from example. These are just people who handle this. If you're Damiani and I need to get a hold of you because I need to contact some people that we're working with for like a sponsorship, or if I need to get a hold of somebody at Twitch, or if something's not working on YouTube, like I need to get a hold of you. You need to be available, and if you're not, you need to let me know. That's the difference between that and full time. A little more loosey goosey, a little more fast and easy allies. Scott's curious, have you ever considered putting a VO of you saying something to the effect of, the following content is made possible by our patrons, over an image saying support us on Patreon, and a link before the podcast or other shows begin, as there may be people who don't watch or listen to entire podcasts, shows, etc. So specifically the beginning of the video. We can maybe just drop a line at the beginning of the podcast. It's actually not a bad idea. I can maybe tell Kyle or Ben to start doing that on Frame Trap. But there are also other ways that we've been experimenting with YouTube, linking stuff out. There's fun, like, new features that they're adding. We'll always be exploring new ways to do that. But that is a good suggestion. Thank you. Joe wants to know, would you guys ever consider having, I don't want to say tier, but a money goal to be a guest on the podcasts, either or both? I don't know why you want to say tier. That's basically what a tier would be. We have that for our Tabletop Escapades. You can be a guest on Tabletop Escapades, and I believe starting soon you can actually be in the world. You can have characters that I believe are in that world, and possibly bump into characters from the main campaign. I think, I don't know about being a guest on podcasts, but that might be a fun show idea for us to actually sit down and have a one-on-one conversation over Skype with one of our allies. That would be fun. Why isn't that a show? Good idea for a show. Joe, you just created a show. Outcast Writer wants to help. Are there any other online platforms outside of the big ones, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, etc., where we can help raise the hype and awareness level for Easy A? Yeah, I would say just in general, other websites, again, don't like invade other communities, but representing yourself as an EZA fan in those communities, whether it's in your name or having our logo as your avatar or in a signature or something like that. Yeah, I would say like NeoGAF and Reddit, would be two other places that if you were to represent yourself as EZA, it would be nice to know that our community is there. Again, it's just for presence. It's not like go there and then say this in this particular way. It's like just go there and wear the digital T-shirt, if you will. Just that's kind of like, hey, I'm with EZA. Like that's my crew. So if something's going on and we're all hanging around here talking, that's the team I'm standing with. Anderson's doing an equipment check. What happened to the equipment bought for the E3 of Dreams? How are they being used? We have curtains that are being hung behind our PC area right now. We have a giant screen that has our logo on it, which we're going to be breaking out again for our meet and greet coming up on December 2nd at the Avalon Ballroom at the Hilton Anaheim and Hilton, California, and Anaheim, California. The desk was the big thing. The desk was a rental, so we brought the desk back. There are chairs that we bought for E3 that they're the chairs that we use every day now for all of the shows that we do. I think we got the table mics too, or maybe we might have gotten those before. So yeah, a lot of the equipment that we got to kind of replaced the current equipment that we were using, and so we just use that stuff every day now. But the desk was the big thing. Luke is being chill. What is your favorite relaxation game? For me, it's something like Minecraft, Harvest Moon, or Pokemon. I get a little stressed out when I'm playing Pokemon, especially if I'm doing a show about it. Minecraft's a good one, though. Minecraft's a great stress reliever. Galaxy of Heroes, which I play on mobile, is a nice, just like, just hit auto battle and just like watch Jedis, chop up people. MMOs are extremely relaxing, particularly the first half an hour whenever I sit into like Final Fantasy XIV or like Warcraft back in the day. That was definitely very relaxing. Disney Infinity used to be relaxing. And Dragon Quest Builders right now is very like, I can definitely just settle in and just kind of like place blocks and stuff like that. You don't have to think too much. King Doug 87 is about to make me emotional. Favorite scene from Lord of the Rings? Fellowship. I'm assuming you mean the movies. I'm going to say the movies. I don't know. You just said Lord of the Rings. I think all of the Lord of the Rings is pretty incredible. So I can't really pick a favorite scene from the books in particular, but the movies, I think the first like 45 minutes of Fellowship are just absolutely pitch perfect. I think everything kind of gets derailed a little bit from there, but the way Fellowship is the best. And Return of the King got the Oscar, but I think Fellowship is the best movie in that series. The way all of that opens is just so charming and remarkably well done. But I think my favorite moment, one that really sticks out for me, is when my anticipation of an event and all of the music and everything leading up to it, and then the actual event happening was just such a spectacular, home run payoff. Was seeing the Knights of Rohan come. The riders come, down the hill and just cutting through like a comb, combing hair right through the army of orcs in Return of the King. I openly wept when I saw that in theaters. I was just like, yes, like that just did it for me. That absolutely looked amazing, looked as good as I thought it was going to. Everything just kind of fit. Nothing really got in the way of me as a film viewer, a film major, a film enthusiast. There's always just little snags, creative, just something in the image that just spoils it in some way, and nothing spoiled it. Everything was everything built up really well towards that moment. Even like in the end when he was like, "You bow for no man," and everybody bowed. I didn't even get. It seems kind of staged, and I'm looking at Viggo Mortensen. The green screen behind him isn't perfect. There's just something, hairs out of place. There's just something that just kind of offsets it. But that moment was just killed it. Jordan's out to make us more money. With the increase in popularity of Frame Trap, what are the chances the show will get sponsors like the EZA podcast, maybe before the show instead of halftime? Yeah, need to talk to Ben more about that. Yes, that show should get sponsored. Harry's got a good one. If you could play a Telltale game about someone else in the DC universe, who would it be? And what to you would be the ultimate choice you have to make? See, now I'm thinking of all sorts of stuff. My second favorite character outside of Batman in the DC universe is Green Lantern. A Superman Telltale game I think would be awesome if you really just kind of like isolated a lot of the choices that he had to make. I think with both Lantern and with Superman, it would be really great to see them have to make decisions, a small versus huge decision. Like, do you save this entire country or do you save Lois? that would be rough. Obviously, nothing is always that black and white in the world of Superman. It'd be really fun to see a villain-based, to see a Lex Luthor Telltale game or a Joker Telltale game. That would be very fascinating. Or maybe just something like they did with Walking Dead, where they have just like an offshoot. That would be cool. Harry also wants to know, could you do a video about GameGuard Watch Signal radio towers? Yeah, I could talk about radio towers. I could talk about towers a lot. I know towers is like a joke. I know there's some things that we do that we perpetuate the joke because it's something about us. It's something that's it's open game. You want to make fun of people, so it's nice to just put some things out on the table that's just like, have at it. You can make fun of that all day, and so you can make fun of me with radio towers, but I legitimately like them. Like I actually could make a video and could do an editorial on towers. So I won't do that now, but I could. Dominic is earning. If there were an achievement for having a question read out on every Easy Allies Q&A segment, what would you call it? You're in the conversation now. Beaglebite says, how do you best manage your budget with the uncertainty of what the Patreon month will close at versus what it normally shows? What has Easy A done to be successful that future content producers can learn from? So yeah, different questions. One, it's been pretty stable so far, so that's actually not a major concern. And really, it comes down to everybody being comfortable with the money that they're making, and currently everybody's comfortable with the money that they're making. And so it's not like we haven't been able to afford stuff because we just kind of run it by everybody. Hey, I'm buying this. This is like $9 a month. It's gonna be, $200 a year. It was okay if I just get this thing. And I was like, okay. It means like they're making $10 less, but it's been okay so far. It's worked so far, so good. Specifically, what has Easy A done to be successful that future content producers could learn from? I think one of the biggest things that I would recommend if you are looking to start a channel right now, if you're right at that spot where you're like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing that, starting a channel, starting a podcast, get on Slack, get on GroupMe, get on one of these group text services. So you're not all just sending a text in one big giant chain. Basically just breaks that conversation up into different conversations. And so we have all these different conversations, one per show, a general thing, a schedule, one for Patreon. And it's just really great having these questions. It flags you when your name is mentioned. And so it's a great way to keep in touch with every single person in your team individually and everybody all at once. And I really think like we could be in a Slack commercial. I would be in a Slack commercial being like, Easy Allies wouldn't have started without Slack. I think it was really important and integral to the creation of the company. And that's not bullshit. It's very, very helpful. So, because it raises accountability. Everybody else sees it. So if you're like, hey, dude, did you do this thing? Everyone else is like, dude, reply. Oh, we can all see that you haven't replied. And so it's a good way to get everybody on the same page. Gordon wonders, did any of the allies try the Tetley tea I sent over, or do you all just stick to coffee? I think some of us tried it, although I know I didn't try it. I barely have coffee. I try to save coffee for when I really need it. Like, whoa, I could use a cup right now. Then if I drink coffee every day, that cup won't be as potent. It won't work as well. So yeah, not so much for the hot sipping caffeine, but we still have it around. So people can still have it. And thank you so much dearly for the gift. And thank you for checking in. I like that you're actually asking, hi Sophie, what? Oh, Sophie wants some love. I'm sorry. Actually asking, hey, I'm glad you guys appreciate the present, but did anybody actually use it? Garrett wants to know, what does Easy A look like if the current Patreon numbers remain stagnant for the next couple of months? Garrett, the current Patreon numbers could remain stagnant forever. Stagnant's better than lowering. Stagnant, going nowhere, not going nowhere, but not going up or not going down is fine by me. Just as long as that means everybody wants to hang around and everybody wants to, because again, the money numbers could be going down while the Patreon actual patron numbers are going up. And so, any fluctuation up or down is expected and is fine, just as long as we continue to keep doing this. And whatever we are doing is going to be reflective in the support that we get. So easily scalable, and we're all eager to keep working on it. Soldat is back for more. How do you feel having people enjoying your work day after day? It's fun. It's a little scary. Sometimes it's scary to put up reviews and know that here we go. Especially late at night. A lot of times I'll finish a video and I'll go to bed immediately after, and whether it's 10 in the morning or 10 at night, and it's scary because I know, if there's something wrong with this, I won't be able to fix it right away. I'm just kind of handing this out to the world and then going to bed. And I hope when I wake up, my Twitter feed isn't full of the last podcast that we put up had the lower thirds were wrong. And it's just like, damn it. It was a really long episode. I was really proud of that episode too. We had the Resident Evil experience stuff at the end of it. It was a fun Halloween episode, and it just messed up that one little part. But it's like a 2-hour long export, and it's just like, just forget it. We'll do it next week. Damn. Adam is talking VR. Now that you've had a chance to try VR, where do you stand? Expensive gimmick or the future of gaming? I don't think anything is the future of gaming. I think the future of gaming is a lot of different things compiled together. I don't think even motion and tablets and polygons and all of the major innovations I think have just been kind of like a small ingredient in the grand goulash that is gaming. But I would not call it a gimmick. I mean, the feeling that you get, it's great to not only get the feeling of understanding VR and trying it for the first time and having it actually click, having it be what you want, having it meet and possibly exceed your expectations. When that finally happens for you, like when you finally get that experience, you're like, here we go. Like and your mind starts thinking like, yeah, this is great, but like, what if you could do this? Like what are the developers of the game that I'm playing now? What are they going to be doing in 3 years? I want to play that game. Like if this is just like them goofing off, call me again when they're not goofing off. If that's 5 years from now, that's fine. But like when they're finally like, here's this thing, it costs a full $60. It is a major game. Like, okay, now I'm ready for that. And so it's not only fun to experience that, but it's fun to see other people experience that. It's that's what's been really great, to just dive into the Vive finally right before PSVR comes out, because it's great seeing a lot of comments from people who've been playing PSVR that are like, I never knew. And you're like, yes, welcome. Like, welcome to understanding what the possibilities are, not necessarily where VR is now. So I see that, mentioning the future of gaming, I think for something to be the future of gaming, it would be something that's like, you have to play this instead of what you're playing. Stop what you're playing now and do this instead. And it's not that, it's just keep doing whatever you're doing in games, love and respect, but you should give this a try. You should get to a friend's house or go to a Best Buy that maybe has a rig or something. That doesn't make sense, but like, just do what you can to get one of these silly things on your face and like take in what this tech can do and where we're going. Darkblade is ready to move. If you could move with all the allies to a new location studio besides California, where would it be? Probably north. Maybe Seattle. Maybe something up there. It's beautiful country up there. There's a lot of great cities up above California, but I think one of the biggest things is it's so hot in LA. So if I ever moved and I've always been tempted to, maybe get a farm upstate somewhere. In my old days, in my 60s or my 70s, just play my wireless jacked-in hollow games on riding a horse up in the, the Hollister country or something. But specifically, just get out of the heat. I mean, if this whole planet's warming up, it's just go north, go north. So yeah, probably there. Sophie's just like, the doors are closed, and this is the longest cup of Jones ever. I'm sorry, Sophie. David's doing a regret check. Have you ever regretted selling game trailers off to Viacom 11 years ago? Would you have wanted to maintain some decision-making power towards the end? No, not really. Everything has worked out pretty well for me. That decision led to a humongous series of events that has brought me to this point where I'm hanging out with you and making videos and getting paid for it and streaming stuff and making videos and getting paid and hanging out with you. It's fun. Joe Town is cracking me up. I'm absolutely terrified about getting attacked by bears now. I don't know why. I've never seen a bear while camping. The largest animal I've seen has been a moose across a lake. Any advice on dealing with this newfound and completely irrational fear? Sure, Joe Town. The thing that's important to understand about animals, I don't have a lot of fears like that when it comes to animals in the wild, above water. Below water with animals is where I wouldn't, like when I think about sharks and octopi, and it's just, no. A lot of that can really spook me. But the thing you have to remember is animals, it's not like they're as afraid of you as you are of them. Like, who knows if that's true. But what I really do believe with animals is that, like, they don't want to mess. Like, bears don't come down from the mountain to get into it. Bears just want food. They just smell something that smells good and they want at it. And so if you're in the way and they're, like, if you're in their way or you're messing with their kids, then they're going to mess you up. But if you're in a tent, and you don't have food in the tent, there's no reason for a bear to go in there. Like a bear, that's just like, especially if the bear is smart and all and knows like that's where people sleep. Like the bear's like, I don't want people screaming at me. It's like, I don't want to deal with that. I just want to sneak in where they aren't, where they're not. That's why I don't keep food in your truck. If you're at a place that actually has bear warnings, like if you've talked to a ranger and the ranger's actually like, yeah, we got bears, just put your stuff in a bag, throw a rope over a really high branch and you just yank it up, tie it off against something. And then untie it and bring the bag down at the end, in the morning. And then you're totally fine. And then literally if a bear comes in and kills you in your tent, you will be on the cover of People magazine because that's never happened. And if it happened, there's just always some other circumstance. It's just bears aren't. I love horror movies and I wish, that sometimes that animals were a little creepier than they are, but it's all real boring. When you actually think about like how these animals, behave, they're always, they don't want to get into it. So same with bears. Zugdar brings up something I wanted to talk about. It seems from my listening and viewing that tech issues happen in a fairly common occurrence. Zugdar goes on and on about this, but I just want to apologize for a lot of weird tech issues. We've been experimenting with some new equipment. We've been adjusting how things work in the space, and a lot of us have been really busy, and so sometimes we've been doing shows where people are not on hand to help out. And a smaller group of people has to set up a bigger type of project kind of last minute. And so it's something that's got me down. It's something that I've been guilty of. I made my own mistakes. I forgot to record Frame Trap one day, or just didn't. I hit the record button, but I didn't press it hard enough, and we didn't double check that it was recording. Growing pains. These are things that I'm happy to get them out of the way the first year of Easy Allies, so that these are classic. So you get in the mindset of when I'm setting something up, I'm like, oh yeah, remember that time I messed up and did that? Yeah, I'm never doing that again. So just racking up a couple more of those, and then. I think we're almost settled into a camera situation that we really like for both the podcast and for streaming. And, excuse me. And we're going to get a different microphone for group streams. We're going to set that up. And I think around the time of New Year or around the time of our 1-year anniversary, we're going to kind of restructure how we shoot the podcast. So things will look better and sound better in the future. Thank you for addressing this stuff. Thank you for bringing it up. And if it is a concern of yours, and if you don't like the way something looks or sounds, always let us know. James wants to know, is there any way to get Huber a green screen? We have one. I think that Huber doesn't want to set it up full time in his garage. I also kind of don't. Like, we've been debating about like setting one up there that we just roll up and then hang there. Which I don't want this garage to become too much like Pee-wee's Playhouse. Like, we have a lot of stuff in here now that I can move around and rotate to fit different setups. And I'm sure we'll get better at being smarter about being in a space like this. But I just don't want to do like a ton of crazy improvements and then we hit our office goal and we move into an office. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I have no use for this thing I just built in the garage. Like setting up Vive sensors is one thing, but setting up a green screen that we use once or twice. So again, it's something that Huber could set up at his house if he wants to. I think he's very comfortable with the way we do Syndrome now, but it would be nice once we wrap up our first year of production to maybe address all of the shows from Frame Trap to the podcast to Cup of Jones, and maybe think of ways, very simple ways possibly, that we can make them just a little bit better. So that is something I will keep in mind, and I will have Huber keep that in mind as well. Gone is curious, are you able to thoroughly enjoy Easy Allies yet, or does the job of creating, growing a brand keep you from taking a breath? Gone, my answer to this is thus. The job of creating, growing... Gone is curious, are you able to thoroughly enjoy Easy Allies yet, or does the job of creating, growing a brand keep you from taking a breath? Gone, the simplest answer I can give you is the job of creating, growing a brand that keeps me from taking my breath, I thoroughly enjoy. So, yes and no. Noah has an interesting question. What's the farthest from home you've ever traveled? Probably China. China or Japan, I think, would be the greatest distance. The longest flight time, and the farthest from where I was born, which is close to here. I was born and raised in SoCal, so I've always stuck around on the west coast of the U.S. Cisco wants to know, as the voice of EZA, do you take any steps to preserve your voice like a vocalist would? Do you avoid certain foods when you know you're going to stream or record VO? Yeah, I like creamy stuff. I like ice cream, and milk-based products. And those are always murder when you're about to go in and record a lot of something. They kind of like cottage cheese your throat a little bit. I got water in here in the mug, so that's a good example of being healthy. Water's great. Just drinking lots of water definitely helps. I don't have to worry so much because I'm not doing like every single word I say is not being like totally captured like in that moment. You know, I'm not voice acting, so it's not like we got to grab the best take of that. This is kind of done off the cuff. A lot of the stuff I do is off the cuff. So it's usually just reviews where I'll actually like potentially warm up. The last review I did was rough because you can kind of hear it in my throat. Titanfall, you can hear a little bit of raspiness that actually kind of works in a way, but the last review that I did for World of Final Fantasy was very difficult. I had to take a lot of pauses, actually, because I was just getting over a cold, and it was all kind of draining back through my sinuses. And so my throat hurt, and that was a tough review to do. And so that's when I'll be very, very careful and take breaks, drink a lot of water. I've done a lot of singing voice work, and so it's good to do like ranges of stuff and just kind of have your voice go up and down the scale, just to kind of open it up a little bit, get all the crud out. Matt asks, have you considered doing something akin to it countdowns, like maybe pick a topic like favorite SNES games or best JRPGs, sit a couple people down, and have them discuss which they feel are the best? Sounds like the perfect studio show. This sounds like something that would be really great if we get a studio. Again, if the studio is too far out of reach, then maybe that's something that we can do just someday out of the week that everybody picks and comes over and sets up a show and records that here. I don't know if I would necessarily call it a countdown, because that would seem like you'd have to come up with 10, or maybe you just make the meeting like the actual selection. But Huber recently just got all fired up. I think it was during like the Halloween stream or maybe the group stream last week, where he was just like, got to do a countdown. He's all fired up about it. Countdowns are great. I'm excited about countdowns too. I'm also excited about retrospectives. I want to do more of those as well. When someone says the word countdown or says the word retrospective, like my heart starts beating, because it's a lot of work. And it's one of those things that, as interesting as that ideas sound, I almost am not interested unless it's a really, really well produced video. Countdowns that we threw together at the last minute made me cry. I didn't like doing that. It was like, retros and countdowns and reviews should all be excellent. They should be the something that we strive for. If we do streams, yeah, we goof off. If we do the podcast, anything goes. Who knows what we're going to say? But if we're packaging those other types of videos. So this would be a different thing, a different show. Could possibly be a fun alternative, definitely much less commitment. You wouldn't have to roll in B-roll or anything like that. We could just get together and talk about fun games. So thank you for the suggestion. Blaine's talking anime. Now that Brandon Jones has begun watching anime, one must know, who is Brandon Jones's waifu? I don't have a waifu yet, because I think I would have to watch a broader spectrum of anime. So maybe I'll get back to you. Although I could be with Lisa for the rest of... Blaine is talking anime. Now that Brandon Jones has begun watching anime, one must know, who is Brandon Jones's waifu? I need to watch more anime, I think, before I can effectively... And probably play more Japanese RPGs with waifu, types in it. Although, hey, I could be... with Lisa for the rest of my life and be very happy. Danny loves the B-roll. Have you guys considered adding the second screen up during the podcast like you have during the press conferences? Yes, like when we're talking about something, just rolling it in the background. That was something that would have been so easy back in the day when we were doing GT time. We could just given that footage to Ian and have him in the control room. Again, studio. If we got a studio and had someone had a Kinda Funny Kevin who was behind the scenes, who was just a tech person, who would just meet us when we would shoot shows and just show up there and be tech in the background and roll that stuff in, then we can totally do it. I don't know if we necessarily have the equipment to do that now in the garage, but it is cool. It is something that we did talk about. We set up a TV in the background here. And with lighting, it was just kind of tricky. It would have taken way more time to set up every Tuesday. And ultimately, we were like, it's just not worth it. But it is worth it to you, Danny boy. You did bring that up, and so it is something we will consider. Alexander's got a great one. Do you take extra effort to move the camera smoothly while playing for capture? Oh, yeah. Definitely. Definitely try to get the most cinematic stuff possible. Definitely try to get really cool, epic shots of bosses. Love games like Gears of War and Shadow of the Colossus that like give you a button that you can actually press to get like the most epic shot ever. Yeah, we'll definitely try to do that whenever I go into a new environment. We'll definitely get like the slow dramatic walk and try to if I'm playing something like Destiny or a Skyrim. So yeah, smooth camera is the name of the game. It's part of the edit. You're picking shots that you want to edit. Noam is curious. I've recently noticed that the audience of EZA tends to skew much older than most other gaming groups. Why do you think that is? I have no idea, and I don't know why you have noticed that specifically. I think our demographic is all over the place. I mean, we just got a gift from one of our fans, who I think is extremely young. I think 10, 11, or 12. And so, we definitely have people from all ages. I have a question coming up from someone called Old Guy. I'm assuming that guy's old. So I wouldn't necessarily comment on what I think, where I think our audience is going, because I'm sure our audience changes every day. But if it is older, if that is a fact, then maybe it's because we are getting a little bit older. I'm 37 years old. I'm really curious how valid my gaming opinions will be when I'm in my 40s, based on where the industry is. But we'll find out if I'm relevant or not together. Thomas wants to know more about the strike. With regard to the current strike of video game voice actors, would it not be interesting to learn more about the background of said strike, perspectives, demands, and goals of those voice actors? Would you not agree that such information was interesting to the EZA community? Definitely. I tried to cover it as the best I could in the EZA podcast. I actually said some things that were slightly inaccurate based on how much people work. It's tough because you want to talk about something and you want to clarify it as much as possible. I'm hopefully going to clarify that a little bit more on the next podcast. But yeah, you can go to, if you Google SAG-AFTRA strike, SAG-AFTRA strike, a lot of the information from both sides of the argument that's most prevalent is right there at the top. You can go and see people's official positions, and they try to sum it up as briefly as possible to illustrate the most important points on either side. And either side have good arguments, and I think rather than one person necessarily being the most right or the most wrong, the most right thing in this particular instance is that we need to stop the strike, and we need to meet the terms on the table so we can finish it up. Old Guy is conflicted. I'm aware that $1 less a month won't change much for you guys, but I think that there are other people like me who want to humbly support you, but still expect the little extra that Cup of Jones was as a thank you. Is there anything you could do to fill this void, or is the lowest tier of patrons condemned to this sad situation? So Old Guy is referring to me not doing Cup of Jones once a week. Me basically getting into the rut of doing Cup of Jones about 2 times a month. Sad situation and void, I think, are maybe words that are a little more extreme than what I would, describe. I don't think it's, I personally don't think it's that bad. Sophie is now bringing the ball in and dropping it at my feet because she wants to play. I'm recording this for a long time. Easy Allies is what it is. We have time to do what we have time to do. I absolutely assure you, Old Guy, I have a little bit of time to socialize with friends and family. I work on Easy Ally stuff. I play video games. That's basically what I do. And so if there's more time to do stuff, I know only what I am capable of doing and what we expect of the other allies to produce as well. And so if you feel that you basically have multiple different tiers, and even though we specifically type rewards that you get for different tiers, the bottom, the entry level, if you will, bottom it sounds like a nasty word, but the entry level would just be viewer. It would just be general supporter. It's like, I don't actually give you guys money, but I still watch you guys on Twitch, and I watch you stream and I watch your videos on YouTube. So as long as you're still willing to hang around and watch stuff, I consider you a supporter. I consider you an ally. I consider you part of the team, part of the fuel that is helping this move forward. And so I'm sorry that disappoints you. I will try to get Cup of Jones done as soon as possible. Again, if we had a studio, if we had the tripod and the lights, like where they are now, if this wasn't a situation where I had to set these up different every time I did a show, where I could literally just record on the camera, record on that, boom, Cup of Jones happens. Then, and if it was at a specific place where that happened, week by week and month by month, then we can produce these faster. But I wanted to address this late in this Cup of Jones episode because it is a concern of mine. Maybe not a concern, but it is. I'll tell you what the concern is. The concern is that you, Old Guy, that people that are in your similar position understand my position, which is that, I don't enjoy not giving you the type of content you want. I would like to produce everything on a very committed schedule, but as the weeks and months go by, in our first year of operation at Easy Allies, and we start to realize what is most important to us in that month, what we can look ahead month to month and realize, this is the review month. This is the time to strike for a retrospective. This is the time to send, Ben to Tokyo to cover something like a PSX more than we would a Gamescom. And we might make different decisions next year. We could find ourselves in October of 2017, and here we are. Cup of Jones is up once a week. and it fulfills a completely different role than it does now. But for right now, it is the time that I can get together with patrons exclusively for a show. Again, old guy, I've also had negative responses to Cup of Jones, to having anything be exclusive. So here you're backing up because you feel you don't get enough exclusive, whereas I've had other people that are like, I think everyone should get Cup of Jones. I don't think anything should be behind the paywall. So can't please everybody, but you can certainly listen to everybody, and you can certainly take their opinions into account. And so know that all of these are great questions, but a comment like that really does sit with me and is something that I will be thinking about constantly. So thank you, old guy. Thank you for being honest. Please continue your story of your position and what you think Easy Allies is worth to you. And Seb is wrapping it up. I've just discovered Kyle on YouTube Gaming Live with Jeff. Have you seen any sort of increase in traffic in your videos since Kyle is advertised as part of Easy Allies? We broke 75,000 subscribers on YouTube. That was a nice little jump. I think we were around 72 or 73,000 the last time I checked. So we got 1,000, I think, in like a week. So maybe that might have happened. And we've had thanks to the Amazon Prime and with Twitch and that synergy. We've had a lot of Twitch subscribers lately. So I don't know if that's coming from Kyle. I don't know if that's coming from Amazon, but we have definitely had an uptick lately. I mean, it certainly is nice. I think that works in a lot of different ways, not only in people that would want to watch us and subscribe to our channel, but people that would just want to find out about us, people that would want to know that we exist. So things like that, and I think reviews are the two biggest things that we've seen a lot of traction as far as, kind of knocking on people's door and being like, hello, we're Easy Allies. And we're like, who is it? We're like, remember game trailers? And they're like, oh yeah. We're like, yeah, Easy Allies. So it's great to have opportunities like that. And I'm going to hopefully try to get on that show soon. Fingers crossed. I have asked them and they have asked me, and it just hasn't worked out schedule-wise yet. But hopefully I can sneak in their first season and be on there live. This week's Cup of Jones, I would like to talk to you all about archaeology. No. I would like to talk to you about reviews. We talked a little bit about reviews. We talked about reviews briefly. I say we, me. I gabbed on about review scores when we first changed reviews. I have now reviewed 2 games, I believe, 2 or 3 games for Easy Allies. And the last game that I reviewed was Gears of War 4. I gave Gears of War 4 3.5 stars out of 5, which for some people would translate to a 7 out of 10, or a 70 if you're on a 100-point scale. We like to think of it as 3.5 stars. Decent is the adjective that we have picked for that group. I think that is a decent game. I would recommend that game to people who like action games and people who are Gears of War fans. I didn't feel fantastic when I finished that review. And I want to talk to you all about how I felt when I wrote Gears. I don't have any regrets for giving that 3.5 stars. I have reevaluated that score on several occasions before I actually cut and published that review. And I've thought about it since. And I've thought about shouldn't I give it an 8? Should I have bumped it up a little bit to give it an 8? But every time I wanted to do that, I was confronted with some ideas that I wanted to share with you. Because it is this interesting journey that all of us journalists are on with our audiences, as far as figuring out how right do these reviews have to be? How much of these reviews are myself? How much of these reviews are the allies? How much of these reviews are the community behind Gears of War? I want to be authentic, and I want it to matter. I want to make a review and not have it just be another review, but have it be what I feel is an opinion that I would like to include in this big conversation that we are all having about this video game. I wasn't originally going to review Gears of War. Gears of War got knocked around a little bit because we were all working on different things, and I hadn't reviewed something in a while, and I was hungry to do it, and it came up, and I was like, yeah, I played Gears of War 1, I played Gears of War 2, I did not finish Gears of War 3, and I did not play Judgment at all. But I really loved Gears of War 1. I guess I can start there. Gears of War 1 was... I distinctly remember playing Gears of War 1 and walking up a staircase and just seeing, it wasn't even like this big grand action moment, but just looking up at this cathedral and looking up at these columns and just how gorgeous, widescreen was, and just welcoming in this new gen and this new console and totally falling in love with the Xbox 360. And as the sun comes in, I wish I had the Staff of Ra. And realizing we're in it. We're in the HD gen. This there's no way they could play this game on the PS2 or the Xbox or the GameCube. This is one of the prettiest games I've ever seen in my entire life. And I remember, a lot of people were like, oh, those meatheads in that game. But like, I remember really falling in love with Cole, like falling in love with Marcus, like actually, lamenting when these characters died and actually really being curious, like what's going to happen with the future of this world? Like, and being really intrigued that like, it wasn't Earth. It was very confusing when I first played. I'm like, oh, it's actually not, it's in this other crazy world. And so it was crazy not only seeing, like what this, threat was doing to this world and crumbling it down, but what this world is, like how is this world like Earth, and how is it different from Earth? And so here we have this trilogy ending. Even though I didn't play 3, I know the story, I know how it ends. I know what characters are relevant now and what characters we had to say goodbye to. So we're going into Gears 4, starting out, and the beginning of Gears 4 is very interesting actually in the story, because you go and revisit a lot of these old moments in the past. It's kind of fun to revisit them and see old characters we hadn't seen in a while, but at the same time it's like, let's move forward. It's like, you don't want to start Halo 4 and be like, remember Halo 1? You're like, yeah, let's just keep going with the story. But I wanted Gears 4. I wanted to play it. I was excited to play it, and I was excited to get into the story and seeing where we're at now. And I just think that campaign is a total throwaway. There was no moment in the campaign where I was truly invested. I enjoyed it. Like there were moments where I had fun, and I liked some of the scenarios that they set up, and specifically the enemy types. I think is the best thing about going through that campaign. The way that they introduce a lot of those enemy types to you, and then it's really rewarding to go into multiplayer and having them show up again. You're like, oh, that wicked thing that just you have to be on one side of it to actually damage it, or that thing that just like sucks everybody up and like runs them around the map. But specifically, not to drone on and on for too long, but the point that I want to bring up with the Gears of War 4 review that rattled me, that I felt a little uncomfortable when I was publishing that review, was because, and that's difficult in someone who, like me on camera right now, and when I'm just writing a script, is trying to articulate their opinions and their emotions and their experience with a video game, is I just wasn't really having fun. And you have a franchise like a Tomb Raider that I was like, well, boy, let's see, Square Enix reboot this thing. And they did, and it was amazing. And having a franchise like a Call of Duty that I'm just so tuned out on, and then Ghosts come out, and I was like, whatever. And Black Ops, it's like another Black Ops, okay. Black Ops 2 is cool, but like, I don't know about 3. And loving 3 and being like, wow, this franchise is back. This is one of the best Call of Duty games I've ever played. This is hands down the best multiplayer I've ever played. This is a fascinating campaign. So going to Gears, and it's not like I'm skeptical of every franchise. It's not like I'm not going to give Gears its due. I just don't feel that Gears did anything. Halo 5, I did not actually play the campaign of Halo 5, which I hear is not that good. But you look at something like Warzone, and how fascinating Warzone is, and how it actually takes a little bit of time to explain it, and how a Halo fan going into Warzone kind of has to relearn the way multiplayer games is set up, and learn to value different things at different times compared to other modes that they would do. And you play Gears 4, and it's Gears. It's just like, yeah, there's a couple new enemy types, and they shook up Horde mode a little bit, and there's some fun new weapons and stuff. But there's no moment of Gears where I was like, whoa, get out! Like, I never had that moment. And so when you play a game for like 30 hours, when you play the campaign and you play just all this multiplayer and you play Horde mode, and again, it's like Horde mode takes, 30, 40 minutes to over an hour, if you're doing it right. And the first Horde mode I ever had in that game was incredible. It went on so like we got to wave like 30 something. And that was so rewarding. And then still after that whole thing, I was like, I was gonna say I don't care, and that's not true. So I'm here. I'm doing an editorial about it. I care about it deeply. I really wanted. It's important to me to evaluate how I feel about Gears of War and how I think other people should interpret that game. And I think if I gave that game a 7 or a 3.5 stars, and people are frustrated about that, then your frustration probably in the grand equation of review to consumer means that that game is very important to you. You probably already own it. You probably like it. I wanted to express the opinion that I'm not concerned about you. I wanted to say specifically it's good to have Gears back, because that's how I feel. But that funk that I had, where I was like, I'm just not rising to the occasion here. I'm just not like, actually feeling the immediacy of this. And I have a very difficult time trying to express that in this review, because I don't want to be that guy. Like every time like any review comes out, there's always like the bottom scale. There's always like, you go to Metacritic and you go through and you're like, yeah, everybody kind of reviewed it around there. Whoa, look at those people. Like, look at those random people at the bottom there. Sometimes Angry Joe finds himself there. Sometimes Jim Sterling finds himself there. I rarely find myself there. I'm usually on the higher side. I'm usually like a little, silver lining, I tend to coat things with sugar a little bit. That's just me. That's just my personality. I think that's something you can expect from me as a reviewer. And it didn't happen this time. And I didn't like it. And people let me have it. They commented a lot on YouTube where they were just like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not pretending to come from a position where I know tons about Gears. I just really tried to express that. Yeah, it was a new team taking on this franchise. And in my mind, they're kind of rebooting it. It's just kind of like, it should be in a different place right now. And I've seen this situation happen before with games, and I've seen teams do more interesting things than the Coalition has done with Gears. I think Gears meets expectations. I think they just kind of showed up and did it. To me, that's 3.5. So that's where that score came from. But I wanted to talk to all of you to see how you feel about the bottom of that scale. Does that anger you? Like, whenever there's a game that you're really passionate about and you go and you see those people that are even just 1 point under where you expect them to be. Like, maybe even if you're like, I'm at a 9. If I see an 8 for Gears, then like, I understand. But like a 7, really? If that really frustrates you, I just want to know, specifically from Gears fans, kind of like where that frustration lies. And now that I've expressed myself a little bit more in a way that I don't think is proper to do in a review, but I think is perfect for a forum like this for Cup of Jones on the rare occasions I actually do get to review something. And just, yeah, in general, how you feel about people like that are just like a wet blanket, that just come in, they're like, I didn't think it was that great. I didn't give it a 5. I think a 3.5 stars is still on specific terms a recommended purchase. I'm still saying if you walk into a game store and come out with Gears, if it's 6.5 stars, it's decent. It's great. It's not great. It's decent. But that's how I feel about Gears. That's how I feel about reviews. That's currently where I'm at in this grand journey of being a video game journalist and actually putting a official score stamp on things, which I do think is important, and I do think makes you think a certain way. So that's how I think. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Cup of Jones. The happiest and safest of Halloweens to all of you. Thank you for your patience always with the stuff that we produce. I hope you like these answers. I love your questions, and I anticipate more of them for the next episode, which you will hopefully get sooner rather than later. Cheers, everybody.